Hello coders, good afternoon, good evening. I am downstairs today because I'm looking after both of the spaniels, and there is Murphy. If you've just seen him come into shop, come down, get down. We're going to try and do a little bit more documentation writing for the and actually building some of the PHP registration course. Sorry, it's now just lead on my feet. The other dog, Goose, is in a room just over there, so he might come in, and I might have to put them outside and do various things, and you might hear some barking and whatnot. So hopefully this is going to go okay. Okay, so let's get into the code. Interestingly enough, I am using my M1 Mac Mini here. My M1 MacBook Pro. Doing this whilst on this screen I've got my iPad and I've got OBS and the chat as well. So I've got screens all over the place. And I've got another screen over here as well. So, whoops, let's get rid of that. Hopefully it's going to be okay. Why has that gone beep? Right. Okay, never mind. First of all, it's because Murphy has moved the power cable out. Okay, that should be sorted now. It's going to be full of interesting things. And there's a bee in this conservatory as well. Ah, good. Let's move on. If you hear the buzzing, I want to take a look, first of all, at, not this, at the PHP login course, because this is the more up-to-date course, and there's a couple of things that I need to pull across. So first of all, lesson 0. Lesson 0 is the introduction of the course. We don't have an introduction on the registration course. So we don't have a lesson 0. So that's the first thing that I need to do. Also, what I might do today is start planning the actual project directories and files and stuff here. So first of all, let's go back over to the login course, take a look at lesson 0. Course introduction. It's a sort of a welcome to the course, how to debug the course and so forth. I believe it's going to be much the same as this. So what I'm going to do is just see if I can copy that file across into here. Good stuff. And let's have a quick read. So hello and welcome to the How to Code Well PHP, that should be registration course. Registration course. This is a beginner friendly course that teaches how to create a basic PHP application using sessions. So we can adjust that a bit. Let's make a little bit of room. I'm on my laptop, so I don't have my massive screen here. So I'm going to have to do a bit of scrolling. Hello and welcome to the PHP registration course. This is a beginner friendly course that teaches how to create a web, how to create a PHP, should be PHP application, which requires user registration and login. The data, the user data, will be held in a MySQL database, and this course will teach how to connect and query the database. Okay, so how to use the project code. Please make sure you are using the latest version of the project. Please see the project code as a guide or reference for your work. Please try not to copy the code line by line, as typing out the code will help you remember what you have created and what commands you have used. Please alter the code or create something similar with the code. Sometimes the best way to learn web development is to take what you've already know and improve or alter it. To debug the code, run composer test or other composer scripts found in the composer.json file. Read the output carefully, as it will often hint at files and line numbers that contain any errors. I think this still stands. I think this still stands. I wouldn't mind putting a little bit more information about the database though. So I'm going to read here. So hello and welcome to How to Code Well PHP registration course. I'm going to change that to the How to Code Well PHP and MySQL registration course. This is a beginner-friendly course that teaches how to create a PHP application which requires user registration and authentication rather than login. Okay. Okay, so the user data will be held in a MySQL database, and this course will teach how to connect and query the database. Connect and query the database for user records. Yes. Okay. All right. Let's just move on with that. Thank you. So I apologize for anybody who has normally seen these streams. I'm not in the office. I'm downstairs. I have a dog laying on my foot, and I've got another dog in the other room over there. So I sound like I'm probably in a public lavatory, to be honest, with the glass windows. But I didn't want to skip this just because of the sound didn't sound right. Because this is stuff that I wouldn't mind just cracking on and doing, to be fair, getting this course as up to date as possible. So what we need to do now is work on the build of the course, in the sense of that's lesson 0. Do we have lesson 0 up here? No, we don't. Let's put that in there. Lesson 0 here. That's going to be course introduction. Course introduction. What I'm interested in now is, now we've got that out the way, lesson 1 is going to go straight into the project setup. So if I could get that completed, the project setup, that would be awesome. Now the project setup for the login course, a login course doesn't have anything to do with the database. It's just logging in using hard-coded credentials, but teaching sessions and stuff like that. I don't know if you can hear that buzzing, but there is it a wasp? It could be a wasp. Something with a stinger on its arse is floating around my head. Good. So yeah, this course here, lesson 1, we have this installation process. So I wouldn't mind kind of tackling this, but in the case of the registration course, I do think it's going to be somewhat similar in some cases, because we're going to be using Composer, and so a lot of this is going to be like, this is talking about how to download Composer, how to configure Composer. A lot of this is kind of boilerplate stuff, and I've got to appreciate that not everyone is going to already have this course, so I can't just assume. I have to take it, on the value of that someone new is coming up to this course. So I can't have any assumptions of what they already know. So here what we're doing is running like test unit and test lint and clean. So all of these are scripts within Composer. So I guess we can play with that today, I suppose. I guess the easiest way is to take a look at the Composer.json file here. That's the login course. Let's see if we can grab that and use that. Where are we? In here. Yeah, of course. So that's straight in the project directory. There we go. Add that. We're going to just change some of this. So this is going to be PHP registration now. Registration, PHP registration. That's the name of the course. Registration. PHP stan. I think all of this is pretty much going to be okay. That's all fine. I don't have anything on here about like what version of PHP is needed. I think that's okay at the minute. Let's just take a look and see. So if I run composer install, it will install all the things. We also need to have coding standard, PHP stan.neon, PHP unit.xml. Let's copy those across. So let's do, I tell you what, let's just build this as it is from the composer. Let's do that. And then we'll go down. Because I don't want to do too many copying and pasting, because if I did that, then I might copy something over which I shouldn't have. So let's just build composer here. Let's do that. Let's not worry about getting into other things. Let's get into the project directory and do composer install. That will hopefully install all those things. Good stuff. So hopefully we have a vendor directory. We do. Okay, one thing I need to do, of course, is to ignore it. So let's get into there and ignore vendor. Like so. Where are we ignoring that on the login? Because I know that we've got an ignore here and we've got an ignore there. So at what point are we ignoring vendor? We're ignoring it outside of the box. And we're ignoring it there for some reason. Okay, interesting. I'm going to grab all of this and copy that across, because we do want to have reports as well. So I'm going to just, right, I'm going to do an RM of composer.lock and also
hello coders,
rm-rv of vendor. Bye-bye. Thank you ever so much for subscribing. Thank you, Navi. I think that was. I am not seeing the same things as I would normally see if I'm in the office. Thank you very much for that. Okay, let's go to. Sorry, that's thrown me out here. Right, so what was I trying to do? I was trying to copy the gitignore file from there, which would have vendor, don't need idea, need php unit.cache, need reports. This top level, we don't need vendor. We do need idea. Okay, idea being that is the directory of PHP Storm. Okay, so again, let's get back into here. Are we in the right place? I think we are. Let's do composer install. Whee! Okay, cool. So now that's built the vendor directory and it's ignored. You can see that's gone yellow. That's good stuff. So, okay. So now if I go over to the login course, there's going to be a lot of toing and froing here, unfortunately, but get on to lesson 0. I don't want to just copy and paste all of this because, well, I suppose I could, and then I could run down through it, couldn't I? Yeah, let's do that. So let's grab that and go into, it's lesson 1, right? Lesson 1. So I'm going to just grab lesson 1 and I'm going to paste it in there. I'm going to make a bit of more room so I can actually see what I'm doing. And we'll go into that view. Okay, so lesson 1, install the project. What you will learn: how to create the project structure, how to install packages with Composer, how to configure and run PHP unit, how to configure and run PHP code sniffer, how to configure and run PHP stan, how to run the scripts. Now, there's going to be something else to this because there's going to be a database attached to this. So whether or not I do this in this lesson, because this is quite a big lesson, or whether what's lesson 2? That's creating the registration form. Lesson 1 is installing. I wonder, lesson index, at what point do connecting to the database, creating the users table. Okay, so I might be able to wait until about there to deal with the database stuff. I need something though that talks about the schema. I suppose we do that at the users table section, talking about the schema. Okay, all right, I'll just continue on as is. Right, so create a new folder called My Project. Inside this folder, create the following subdirectories: My Project, config, public, assets, reports and tests. So the reason why it's called My Project is because when you get to the point of downloading this course, you're going to have a copy of the project in the project directory, but you should only be using that like for reference. So you would create your own My Project folder and then essentially go through the course replicating what's in the project folder, but doing it through your own sort of, typing. So from this regard, we could do we definitely need the public directory. We definitely need the assets directory because that'll hold the CSS. So we'll create that. We need to have, I'm going to just create a blank file just called main.css just so I can commit this. That's going to have our CSS stuff in it. Go back to lesson 1. What's going to be in config? I suppose in config we could have things like configuration for setting and connecting to the database, I guess. We will need to have a common, I'm going off a bit on the tangent here from this. So yeah, we will need to have a config directory, I think. In the logging course, we do have our config is in here. It is PHP files that hold arrays of data. Now, obviously, in the registration course, this data will be held in a database, but we still need to configure it because we still need to make database connections. Now, I could all do this in one single PHP file, but that would be horrendous. So I think what we need to do in here is create a directory called config, and I think we need to create a file called settings.php. Okay, so I'm just sort of making placeholders at the minute. Right, then we got reports, which is what we'll need for code coverage reports. So at the minute, I'm just going to put in a git keep file in there, and actually no, because that is going to be ignored, isn't it? Yes. Okay, lesson 1. And we definitely need a tests directory. Do we need anything else? Now, we could have an end. I don't want to build an ORM. So when we go and connect to the database, we obviously need to make some queries. So there is a question mark. I'm questioning whether or not this should be an object-oriented course or whether this should be a procedural course. I guess it could be procedural first and then be object-oriented later. So a bunch of functions rather than a bunch of objects. If it was a bunch of objects, actually no, let's do OOP. That'll just make things a lot easier. Okay, so if it's OOP then, because we're using PDO, why don't we have a folder for like a repository folder? Or no, a folder for models. A model folder. Not a mode folder, a model folder. Where's my refactory name? There we go, model. So a folder full of models. So an example, well, we would have one model, which would be user.php, right? Right. And with the PDO stuff, we could hydrate, we could create a class of a user. This is just the planning stage, so I'm just throwing things down on paper. So this is going to be completely, you know, this is, I appreciate I'm going into wildly different directions at the minute, but we could have a user where we've got a private string of, say, a first name. Why is that? Am I not running off of PHP 8? Why have I not? Have I got PHP 8 on this machine? Yes, I do. I thought I did. Cool. All right. So PHP 8. So that, right. And then we've got second name or last name. Then we've got email address. Oops. Then we've got, so that'll be like the username, and then we've got the password. And what this course will teach is how to log in with a known user, and also how to register with a new user. And then once you've got to the point of login, when you've logged in, take you to like a profile page, and then allow you to update the first name and the last name. So let's just create some getters and setters for all of this. Make sure it's all fluent. That looks good to me. Let's put in a namespace as well. Let's do a namespace of, say, app model, like so. Which we would have to adjust in here. Now I'm thinking about it. Why don't we change all of this so this becomes in our project directory? We have an src folder, and then move the model into the src folder. That becomes app. There we go. Because we're gonna also need to have a directory in here of like pages. Well, that would be in public. So in public, you would have index.php. I know we've gone well off of the road of lesson 1, but I will get back to there in a minute. We also need to have another page called login, and we need to have another page called register. And we need to have another page called profile. So there are 3 pages that we need to set up. Okay, let's get back to, because I think that's enough of the structure. Of course, we need to have something that deals with, the connection of the database. Config needs to go in src as well. Yes. So we need to have like a manager or something. I don't know. I mean, if we were to just spitball on this, so the profile page, so like step 1, would be to log in. Step 2 would be to render profile page. And step 3 would be to submit form. Step 4 would be to save data, and then step 5 would be to render profile page with message. And then in the steps in between here, we would have things like login would be to check creds, render the profile page, submit the form. So that would be data validation. That would be find or query DB to get user from form. And I haven't decided how to do that yet. So, I mean, one way we could do is have the ID as a hidden field. Well, no, because what you've done here is you've logged in. So what you could do is you could save login to session. So then what you do is query DB to get user from session. And then what you would do is update user record from supplied data, and then well, that would be step 4, wouldn't it? Let's move that over there. Step 4 would be to save data, so this is a update user record from supplied data, and then step 5 would be to render the profile page with a message. This is all the happy path, so this is happy path. So this is when things go right. Obviously there's stuff that I'll need to put into place when things go wrong. So for example, if you log in and it doesn't work, then we need to put in a message to say, you know, your login details are incorrect. Let's say you've logged in correctly and then you submit the form. If the data validation is wrong, then we need to say, you know, your email address isn't formatted correctly or what have you. And then we need to and sanitize the data as well. So that's data validation. There's also another one, which is input cleaning. We probably would do that first to get the actual data records, because what we need to do, we need to query the DB to get the user from the session, and then we need to populate. In fact, we render the page should be here. We need to query the DB to get the user from the session, and then we need to populate the form with the first name and last name of the user. Then when we submit the form, we need to query the data back to get the user, to get the user from the session. Then we do data validation. Actually, we probably should do the data validation first. We do the input cleaning first. So I'm starting to get a little bit of an order going here. Data validation, query the DB to get the user from the session. And then we do the update. So update the user record from the supplied data. And then step 5 is to render the profile page again, but with a success message. Good. Good. Hello, Martin. Hello. A bit weird today because I am downstairs. I'm not in the office. Yeah, I am looking after both of the dogs today. Normally my wife looks after the dog when I'm streaming, but dogs. But luckily they've been asleep. so they're quite quiet. But if you do hear any dog noises, that's why. Okay, so what's the time? 18:47. Okay, that's fine. So that's the happy path of the profile. We won't do the same things for these today, but that's good. I wouldn't mind just getting back to lesson 1 and just seeing if we can crack through this a bit more. So what we want to do is to change this up. We've made a decision on the fact that we need to have public and assets. We need reports. We also need tests, but we now also want to have our src directory, src, and then within the src directory we need to have something like config, so we can remove config from there, and we also need to have model. Yes, I mean this might grow. I don't know. Is that enough? I'm just trying to think. Like, okay, go back to here. We need something to query. We need to act upon a query. So if I was to think back to like in the Symfony world, you would use like an entity manager. So we've got our model, but the model is a representation of the record. What we could do with is having a manager which manages the data. Let's just remove that actually. So we could have a directory, which is the manager. The manager we would have user manager, that whatever it is flying around again. Don't know if you can hear it. There is something flying around with a stinger on its arse. Right, so the user manager. Let's just throw something together, shall we? So it's just gonna. I'm literally just throwing this out of my head. I haven't even given this any thought. So this is the user manager. The user manager would probably extend an abstract manager, but let's just not worry about that at the minute. We need to have a couple of functions. One would be public function. Let's prefix this by find. So find by. If we're saving the user to the session, we will be saving the user ID to the session. So we could do find by ID. And that would be an int, which would be a ID, and that would return the user, right, which we've just created. So again, we put in a namespace in here, and that's going to be like manager, app manager, user manager. So it's going to use the model call, so that will just say return new user. Again, I'm just putting in some placeholder stuff. So finding by ID, that's going to find the user by its ID. When we've got that saved to the session, and then we need to have another one, which is find by email. Find by email and password. I'm not 100% sure if this is the way I want to do it yet. I'm just playing. Email and a string of password. What else do we need to do? The manager needs to do a bunch of updates. So they need to, it's update, just update. And with the update, we have a first name and a last name, like so. And that would do like User, would we get the user and then update it? Or would we? Because could we pass in the user? Go user here. And then do user set first name is first name. Set last name. Do I not have a set last name? What? I haven't. Did I not do? Oh, didn't realize I did that. Sorry, my mistake. Get as setters, all the things, please. Thank you. So in here, that's the model. That's the manager. There we go. Set last name is last name. So then we need to have like a save routine. We also need to return the user as well. So public function save would take the user and and do something with it, and then return, save it, and then return it. So this would be something like, I don't know, I'm totally making this all up now. So save user record. So this needs to call something. So does this. This needs to call something. So here we do this save, and we pass in the user that we've just set and saved. All right, so we've got passing in the user, whatever it is that we want to update. We update that, and then we call the save. That returns the user that we have saved, and we're returning that. So we could get away with just doing this, can't we? Boom. Okay, and that's going to return the user, like so. Good. Whoa, no. That user, there we go. Right. Okay, so we're throwing things together. We are literally just throwing things to the wall and seeing what sticks. Okay, so we need to have a means of making the queries, you know, and we're going to use PDO, so let's just tackle that. I would like to create a abstract manager. The idea with this is the fact that you could take this away and do other things with it. It's not just a user thing. So we're going to get rid of that. That's going to be manager. That's going to be, this is going to be a abstract class called abstract manager. Hell yeah. And then this is just going to be like public function query by ID, right? So this is going to take the queries and ID, and that's going to be an int, and this is going to be like, I don't know, SQL is equal to I'm totally making this all up, select blah 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 from user where something is something, you know. So that's going to happen. Then it's going to make something to do with the connection. So we probably need to pass in on the public function constructor. We probably need to pass in a DB connection. So whatever, like DB, pass in the DB. Sort it. There we go. And then this would be. We're using PHP 8, so this could be property promotion. So this could be a private, I don't know what it's going to be yet. Probably something, I don't know, something like that. And then we could do this PDO, this DB, blah, 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 query, passing in the query, you know, all these good things. What's that going to return? Something or other, PDO statement. Statement is equal to this. Again, I'm totally making this all up. totally making all this up. So this is fetch, whoopsie, like I don't know, a fetch type thing. What's that going to return? Is it going to be mixed? Of course it's going to be mixed. For a PO statement, fetch. Okay, I'm not going to get bogged down in all of this. So we're just going to do result is equal to that, and we're just going to return it. Again, I'm not going to get totally bogged down, but what will happen is that this will extend abstract manager, right? And then, maybe in the abstract manager, we also pass in the table that we want to do. So we could do like string table name. I'm just like thinking, so that would be select stuff from like table name where thing is, again, this is very pseudo code, and obviously this won't work, but I'm just trying to put in some scaffolding. Again, this is just coming right out of my head. So so up here, this is where I want to get to. Up here we do this query by ID, and then we pass in the ID, and we also put in the table, which would be I mean, we could even be clever and do like const table name is equal to user in here, and then in there we do user. Oh, again, why are you doing that? User table name, doom, like that, boom, boom, boom. Yeah, and then this becomes the result that gets passed back, result. And then what we're doing is we need something to hydrate the results to the user. So let's, yeah. So sort of similar to that. I'm not going to fill out all of this stuff, to be fair. I just wanted to get that out of my head. Right, so going back to lesson 1. So we have a model. We also need to have a manager. I don't know if there's anything else. So these are going to be like our controllers. So our profile will do this within the PHP land. We could, I guess we could have, something up here which says controller is equal to, let me let's just play. We could have controller. This is where we're slowly starting to build our own framework, and I don't really want to do that here. So controller is equal to new profile, if that was like profile controller. This is dangerously getting close to building our own framework, and I don't want to do that. And then I'm going controller run, passing in the request variables. Okay, no, that's too much. Let's not do that. I'm going down a rabbit hole already. Let's just put the PHP in here, and we'll make a decision as we go, I think, as to whether or not we do create a directory in src of controllers. There's only 3 pages, right? So I don't want to go over the top, but I do want to spend a bit of time talking about how to properly connect to the database, and all of that jazz. The settings file will have an array of configuration, I think, or we could use this as a as defined stuff. So we could do like define. We could have a bunch of constants in here, right? So we could have like, I don't know, I'm making this all up. So this could be like DSN for DSN. Or we could just go like MySQL, you know, or like DB name. And then we could have like DB name, we could have DB username, and then we could have like DB password. So let's do test, test, or something. Can be replaced with a const syntax. Yes, of course it can. Yes, why didn't I do that? Yeah, something like that. Or we could do envs. I don't know. So we need to pass something in, which is the DB connection. I'm tempted to use a facade pattern to inject a class called connection, which exposes the PDO. I mean, I don't want to get too bogged down in the architecture of it, but for an example, we could have something like, and again, I'm just totally making this up. Or is that too much? When we inject, what are we injecting? We're injecting the DB. From here, we could make the connection. But ideally, we should be using like some sort of design pattern where we create the connection. Dare I use the word singleton? I don't know. Okay, we're going to back away from that. I need to spend some time and actually think about that and make a proof of concept where we're actually making a connection. I'm not going to worry about that too much because I really want to focus on lesson 1. Okay, so let's get back to this because I think I'm going all over the place at the minute. Right, so we ran, right, so we've download composer, run the configure composer, run composer, configure PHP unit. Right, I don't think I'm going to be able to get all of this done tonight, unfortunately. So I think what I'm going to do actually is back out this change and just draw a line under where we are. I think that's probably wise. So I'm going to, I'm going to revert this change. I'm going to roll that back and I'm going to take a look at what we've done. I think what I'm going to do is just take a step back and think about how to properly architect this and how, and then wrap the documentation around the implementation, because I can see myself going down various rabbit holes and then having to update the documentation. It might be worth me focusing on the actual application and then writing the documentation once it's in a stable sort of environment where we can actually make connections and stuff to the database and so forth. So this is a change. Let's just run git commit and see what's changed. So let's come out of the project for a minute. That's fine. Okay, so the index.md was course. So we added lesson 0, which is the introduction, and then on lesson 2 we changed that. Okay, so let's do adding Course intro. And then this is fixing typo. And then let's have a look at what we've done. So this needs to be added. So let's do a git commit on this directory. So what we've done is we've created the git ignore, and we're ignoring those stuff. That's fine. We've got the composer.json file. That's all been changed. That's good. Composer log file, obviously. Then we've got in our src folder, we've got our config, which has settings.php, a manager, which has an abstract manager, which is going to be built in a way that allows for extension. So it's an abstract manager that has some base functions, base methods. So query by ID, for instance, will run the query and then return the result. And then we've got the user manager itself. This is going to run the results and then by the given table name. It's also got a find by email and password. Then we've got the update. That's going to change because we shouldn't be doing it like that. The password needs to be encrypted. So we need to have the hash of that. We also have an update routine here, which takes the user and the first name and the last name, sets that, then runs save. Save doesn't do anything at the moment, but saves the record. That's looking good. And then in the model, we have the actual model itself. What I'm going to just change in the manager, I can see myself working a lot in this, to be fair. What we need to do here is we need to go like if user, we don't have ID, do we? No, that's what we need to do. So let's do a private, let's do it at the top here. Private int, which is the ID, and let's put that in like so. And the ID is going to be nullable as well, because let's get rid of that for a sec. Let's get as and setters, put that back in. Because at this point in the user manager, we need to say like if user get ID is equal to null, then we insert the record. Else we, so that is insert, and that is update, like that. And of course, this is going to go to the abstract manager, and we're going to have public function insert. And then we're going to have public function insert update. Now that's going to break because that needs to be, the update routine needs to be the same. So let's do update. Let's abstract this a bit more. So on the abstract manager, let's do insert record, and that is update record. Now I'm starting to think that this probably isn't the best way of doing it, but So that, yeah, so this would be this, this insert, and then this would be this update, something like that, and it would just return the record back. I think we also need to have a hydrate method, I think, where we're hydrating the user, I think. But because that will return like a standard object or an array, and so I need to hydrate it back. So in that case, we could have an abstract method called hydrate. Again, we're getting dangerously close to building something that kind of remotely looks like a framework. Abstract public function, hydrate, and that's going to take an array of data, and it's going to return something, but I'm not going to define it. So when we go to here, after we've done the query, we need to have a hydrate method. So I'm just going to put this down here, public function hydrate, and that's going to take the data, and then what we do is we have user is equal to a new user, and we're going to do like user set first name is data first name, and then that's going to be set last name. Get rid of that. And this is going to be the ID set. Oh, no, actually, this is going to be the email, set email, which is data email, and then we have the ID, finally, set ID. Oh, no, we have the, I'm not going to do the password because that shouldn't be stored in the object. Like that, and then we can return the user. Good. Yes, okay, that makes sense. Yes, so after this, after we get the results, we do this hydrate, passing in the date, passing in the result. That will return the user, so we can do return the hydrated result. Cool. All right, that's good. Hydrate, find name, find by ID, runs the query, hydrates the thing. Then this one here. Now I'm gonna just change the visibility scopes to this because I think that can be, well, if not really, because I want them tested, to be fair, which means that they're gonna need to be public. Again, that's another interesting point. It's like ideally that hydration method should be protected, I guess, but that means that it's going to be difficult to test. I would need to maybe mock something. There's going to be mocking involved in this because of the mocking the database, the connections to the database and stuff. Okay, that's fine. We're going to do a similar thing here with the find by email and password, but again, I'm not overly happy with that. Would be the hash, so unhashed password and hash. There we go, just and hash. Doesn't have to be anything about password at all, it's just the hash. Yeah, that's the update. That then does save. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. So going back to here, after we've logged in, we need to query the user from the session. So let's say, for instance, we have like session is equal to, let's do user ID, right? So this is ID. So user ID is equal to user ID, and then we could do user manager. Do this at the top. No, user manager is equal to new user manager. We need a PDO thing, but that's fine. And then we do user manager. We do like find by the ID that we've got saved. That becomes our user, and then we can populate the form with the user credentials. That's fine. And then down on the submitting, we do input cleaning, input data validation. We query the database again, so we do the same thing as that, getting the ID out. So I'll just move that over to here. Move this up there. Let's just put that as that stuff. And then we update the record with the supplied data. So this would be user manager update, passing in the user, passing in the supplied first name, last name. So here we would have, now this is going to be unsanitized, of course, but we would have a post which would have first name. Again, this needs to be cleaned, this needs to be validated and stuff. Whoops. So you would have first name, you would have last name, like so, and you would run that, and that's that. Then what's that returning? That's returning the user itself. So we've got updated user. Yeah, and then it would, render the page with a success message. So yeah, there's still a lot of scaffolding that I need to do around this, but I didn't even think about this until I started streaming. So there's a lot to do. Obviously, this course is going to be slightly bigger than the other one because we're dealing with databases and stuff. But anyway, I am going to grab my dinner. Thank you ever so much for watching. I do apologize about the state of the stream today. I am downstairs, not in the office. I am looking after my dogs, which thankfully have been quiet. They've been asleep. So yeah, I need to go and grab my dinner and carry on with the rest of my evening. Next Tuesday, we'll be back at this, and we will continue. We might look at another thing, like like login, for instance, or register, and do a similar thing and slowly start putting meat on the bones. And then we also need to actually make connections to the database and all of that stuff. So this is all very pseudo-code at the moment. This is just like me throwing things at the page and seeing what sticks, what makes sense, what feels comfortable to me from a sort of an architectural point of view. Yeah, so far so good, I think. Anyway, thank you ever so much for watching. Happy coding, everyone, and I'll see you again soon. Take care. Cheers. Bye bye. And I need to go to this screen and stop the